Welcome back to Crunch Time. And today we are doing our Eastern Conference power rankings. So we're actually back to podcasting and not just doing the little short form videos. So, what are we doing today? Like I said, we're just going to be doing the Eastern Conference power rankings. It's kind of, it's pretty much predictions of seeding. I'm going to, my 15th ranked power ranking is going to be the 15th seed in the East. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. So I was putting this list together, and boy, is it hard because there are so many talented teams in the East. And if you asked me, separately, if X team could be a top six seed this season, I would probably say about 12 teams I could see. You know, like it would be shocking for probably two or three of those 12. But if you told me that one of those 12 teams ended up being a top 60 next season, I'd believe you, which is kind of crazy because that is a lot of teams. I feel like there's a few tiers of teams, and I put a lot of thought into this list. So we're going to start with 15. 15 is the Milwaukee Bucks. Um, I don't think that should be all that surprising that the Milwaukee Bucks are number 15. They traded away Giannis, and they got a relatively good haul back, but I don't think that their haul is good enough, especially with the talent in the Eastern Conference. I don't think a they'll be a fun team. They'll be fun but bad, and I think making they're being reasonable. Obviously, they don't have their first round picks really. The Blazers do, so they don't gain anything from they don't lose anything from being really horrible. They kind of just lose fans. But the the Bucks are going to be in kind of a hard place for a while, and that's just how it's going to be. But yeah, so 15, I have the Bucks. Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Club Ware, and the boatload of picks they got for Giannis. Great haul. It's just not in my eyes anything compared to some of the other teams, and I don't think it's going to be good basketball being played. It's just a bad team. That's all there is, really. It's just a bad team. There's not much more to say about it. At 14, I have the Nets. I did make a Nets video earlier this week, so I'm not gonna harp on them too much. But yeah, they're just the Nets, man. It's a little sad. The Nets are just they're not really good at anything. Jaeger Demon is really showing up in Summer League, and I think he could potentially make an all-star push this year, with the right injuries and obviously with an expected jump from him. He's probably their best player aside from, MPJ and Randall, but Randall isn't like it's a low bar, right? And I don't think any of them are franchise guys, and I would be shocked if MPJ was still there this season, like at the end of the year, because the Nets, they don't need to sell, but they don't have anything to win with. So I would say just getting future capital, sending MPJ to some team that's trying to compete that can, send you a first round pick or maybe two if they're really, greedy or if he's really going off again. I think that's it. And I think Randall just is in purgatory for a while till his contract's up or until they get a buyout. But yeah, it's gonna be very hard for the Nets to do anything really all that good. And I would probably say they're probably going to be my least watched team of the year. I'll say this actually. They're going to be my least watched team of the year because I am, you know, in this area of New York. Like I'm in the New York area, and the Nets are my blackout team. So yeah, I don't see their games on League Pass. And you might think, oh well, you'd see them on your local NBC network, but for my local networks on my TV, it's the Celtics, so I can't watch the Nets like at all. So yeah. Anyways, the at number 13, I have the Bulls, and I was really sad putting them here because I wanted to be like, oh, the Bulls might be a playing team this year, and they really could be. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulls could be a 10 seed, but I think there would have to be some injuries to some of the up top teams where they don't work out well, and they don't do a whole lot or something like that. I love the Bulls this year. I think they're really taking a good step forward. Their new GM seems to really know what he's doing and have a approach that is better than their last one. I love the Caleb Wilson pick. He showed out in summer league. I love Modest. He's brilliant, an awesome basketball player. I love the Norman Powell signing. He's a guy that can just give you straight buckets. He'll put shots up. I like how Giddy works in with all this because a lot of these teams, like for example the Sixers, who made a lot of additions this year, they have so many shots to go around, and they're probably gonna hurt Edgecombe's development by having all these shots to go around because they're gonna take shots from Edgecombe and probably Jaylen Brown too. But we'll get to the Sixers. Not for a while. But yeah, the Bulls, they have shots to go around, but Giddy doesn't need shots. Claxton doesn't really need shots. So it's kind of just going to be the Powell, Buzelis, and Wilson show, like in terms of getting shots up. Obviously, Giddy is going to facilitate. I could see Giddy averaging, 10, 11 assists this year. I wouldn't be surprised if this team, you know, could really squeak out, a few games. And if I'm looking at the standings from last year, right, just for a gauge of like how far back the bad teams were, right? The Pistons were on top with 60, and the Wizards were on the bottom with 17. I don't think there's going to be a team in the East with less than 30 wins. I also don't think there's going to be a team in the East with more than 52. I think it's going to be pretty close. And I think, that last week of the season, there could be a team that's the 3 seed and they end up being the planned. They end up being in the play-in because that's how close this conference is. And although I think the Western Conference has better teams, I think the East is more competitive. I think, if you're asking me who comes out of the East, I don't know. I have obviously a tier of ideas, but there's like 4 or 5 teams I could realistically see coming out of this conference, which is not something I would say about the West. It's not something I would say about the West. Yeah, number 12, we got the Wizards. So it's hard. I really love what the Wizards have done. And just spoiler alert, number 11 is the Hawks, which in yesterday's video I mentioned that I think the Hawks are going to be a playing team. I didn't really think. I thought about like their team construction and like how good of a team I think they'll be. And I was like, yeah, they'll probably be the 9 or 10 seed. No, they couldn't fit in there because I had other teams that I thought were going to be better. And that sucks because I really want to put the Hawks up there. But let's get to the Wizards. So the Wizards, Trae Young, AD, they do have DeBonsta now. They have Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, Bilal, Sar, obviously. So they have a lot of names. And once again, I don't think this is gonna be a bad team. Just because they're the 12th seed does not mean they're a bad team. This conference is so competitive. I can't. I just don't know how to like explain how competitive this freaking conference is, dude. It is genuinely so crazy to me how much competition is in here. But yeah, the damn dude, this conference is so stacked. But the Wizards are one of those teams where I said they could be a top 6 seed, and like it's believable. If you told me AD plays, the whole year, Trey, looks really good, AJ looks really good, right? I would not have them at 12, but AJ being a rookie, he'll probably come out pretty hot. Yeah, but I feel like he might hit that rookie wall. AD's probably gonna miss games. It's a better bet than not. Trey, he didn't look great last year. He only played a few games with the Wizards, but with the Hawks, he didn't look all that great. Maybe he can, take more of a playmaking route and maybe bulk up a little bit. I haven't really seen any offseason like stuff from him, but if he can become more of Fred Van Fleet defensively, they're around the same height. Obviously, the skill set's not there, but I just mean like bulking up, maybe, maybe they could, do something. But I think it's a better bet to bet on some of these other teams. And that's what it is. It's not that the Wizards are bad. It's just that the other teams I feel like are better. And I think that's the distinction here. And I feel like that if anyone gets this Eastern Conference right, I would be so surprised because there's going to be so much. Like, dude, if Tatum is out for 15 games or whatever, I could drop the Celtics to the play in, like the back half of the play in. That's how like important it will be. So, like I said in number 11, I have the Hawks. There's not really that much for me to say here. I talked about the Hawks a lot yesterday, so I don't want to, overstep or anything too much. But I did realize that I didn't say Nikhil Alexander Walker's name at all yesterday. So I want to shout him out, let him know, like, yo, I know you're on the team. Did he win the MIP? He was either runner up or he won it, but MIP candidate or winner, don't remember. But yeah, it's definitely it's definitely hard putting a team like the Hawks here because they were probably the best team in the NBA since the All-Star break or something like that. They had one of the best records in the league, and I don't want to have them here. I feel like I should have them higher, but I don't, and I don't feel better about them than any of these other teams above them. And maybe my 9 seed is a little bit of a high pick, but I feel good about that team. And like I said, they could be a 6 seed. The Hawks could be a 6 seed. From now on, all these teams, if you told me they were the 6 seed next season, I would believe you. And I mean the 6 seed. Like even who I have at 1, who I have at 2, who I have at 3. If you told me they were the 6 seed next season, I would believe you. So even though right now we're at 11, if you told me any of these teams are the 6 seed, I would believe you. At 10, we have the Magic. So I haven't done any Magic stuff yet. Um, so the Magic. What do we got for the Magic? Well, this is a little bit of a. I don't. I personally would have had the Magic a little bit lower, and I know this is my list, but I have to at least give some type of blame to Jamal Mosley. And I think if a new coach comes in and they really click and Carroll likes him and Franz is healthy all year, they'll have a better year than last year. They did take the 1 seed to 7 games. They were up 3-1 on the Pistons. They should have won that series. And does that really mean anything, winning one series? Not really. But they should have won that series. And that was with a bad coach, that was with Franz being all hurt. So yeah, it sucks. And I have them at the 10th seed. They're still gonna be competent. They're still gonna be able to, take down any team on any given night. It's just they're gonna do it less than all these other teams. So the number 9 pick that I said that might have been pushing up is the Charlotte Hornets. I'm a big Brandon Miller guy, and I also really like Khan. Everyone loves Naz Reid. Obviously, Naz Reid is the big trade piece from the LaMelo trade, where they also traded a 2033 pick. Or they got one, I think, right? Yeah, something like that. I think they traded a 2033 pick away, and then they got, like 3 back, but like 2 of them could be swaps or something. It was really confusing. But anyways, that's really all there is with that trade. But then they also traded Miles Bridges. They got Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen, and those are 2 really good role players, and they can really have a good impact in that Charlotte team. And Charlotte loves to, have a high-powered offense, and they'll help with that, and they'll help with the defense. And I'm sure Charles Lee would love that, and I have no doubt in my mind that this team will be good. But they're obviously the 7 or the 9 seed right now, and that is not really good. So I don't know what to say. It's so hard to rank, and I was really looking forward to this because I was like, oh, this is gonna be kind of cutthroat. This is gonna be pretty easy. I'm gonna yap out each team for like 2-3 minutes after. Go to the next one. Yeah. Dude, this is hard. This is really fucking hard. How am I supposed to say that the Hornets are better than the Hawks, who both teams were some of the best teams in the league last year at the end of the season, and the Hornets went out really sad. The Hawks probably put up one of the best fights until they went out really sad. The Hawks made great offseason additions. They didn't really lose anyone that valuable. And the Hornets switched up so much. How am I putting the Hornets above the Hawks? I have no idea, but I am. It's my fucking list, so suck it. At number 8, I have the Cavs, and this is kind of crazy having the Cavs here. When I was originally making this list, I was like, yeah, the Cavs would probably be, around 5 or 6. Not with the teams that I have up there. So why are the Cavs at 8? Aside from the other teams being better, they didn't really do much in the offseason. There were big Mobley rumors, there were big Donovan Mitchell rumors, there were big Harden rumors, there were big LeBron rumors, there were big Jared Allen rumors. Notice I just named their entire starting lineup, except for their small forward, because their small forward is a rotational door. They lost Dean Wade. They didn't really add anyone else. That makes you worse. Dean Wade is a fantastic defender. Who is going to be the point of attack defender for the Cavs? There's not really someone there to do it, and that's a big problem. Keon Ellis left. Harden's not going to be the point of attack defender. You don't want that. For the last 8 minutes of that first game versus the Knicks, it was just ISO on Harden the whole time. And Kenny Atkinson just let them do it. You don't want Harden to be that guy. Donovan Mitchell should be that guy, but he's not. He puts too much load offensively where he's not able to use all of his talent on defense. Donovan Mitchell's not a bad defender, but he doesn't try nearly as hard on defense as he does in offense. And that's a problem. If Donovan Mitchell can, swing that load so that he is trying a lot more on offense or on defense, and maybe Mobley takes a scoring leap. I think that's out of the picture, but who knows? Maybe Harden is more the scorer and, facilitates here and there. I don't know, but there's no reason to do really no off-season moves. And I'm a Warriors fan, so I know all about fucking no off-season moves. This is crazy. You got Mario Hazonia. That's your headliner. That's your fucking headliner. That's why you're the 8th seed. At the 7th seed, this one's going to be very, very controversial, and I'm sure I will have some people on my back for this. But if you disagree, I'd love to know why, other than the fact that they won 60 games last year. I got the Pistons here. And there's a few reasons. What's going on with Duren? You guys are going to pay him? Because he is an all NBA center. He wasn't good in the playoffs at all, but it's not really his fault. He's not a creator. Cade, kind of had his work cut out for him. And the Magic are a pretty good team to defend a big man. And you know what else is pretty good to defend a big man, in my opinion? Probably like Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. That's probably, a pretty good way to defend a big man. So I'm not really blaming it all on Duren. I would say that if, again, this year he underperformed, then that is a big worry. But what's the problem here? And I don't know the case. Maybe Duren is like, nope, I am doing 40 million. That's it. And the Pistons are like, we're not paying you 40 million. So if you want 40 million, you can go somewhere else. And if no one else is getting 40 million, but Duren thinks he's worth 40 million, hey, Duren, take the qualifying offer. Have a good year. Average 25 and 12. Make 45. You can do that. You can take the qualifying offer and prove yourself. Now, that might be fucking hard, especially if you are betting on yourself, because what if you don't do that? And now, or what if you get hurt? And next year, your best offer is like 15 or 20. Then you got to do it again? What if you're just not like that? So I understand. And it's probably hard. But Duren, I would just take whatever the Pistons are offering you, unless it's some bullshit. If they're offering you anything less than 30, don't take it. But if they're offering you 30, dude, take it. And if you show that you're worth 40 this year, they might give you 50 on your next contract. So just keep that in mind. You know what the Pistons also didn't do? Anything. Okay, they did. But they didn't get another creator alongside Cade, which is what they needed. All offseason, before the offseason really started, like after the Pistons got eliminated, we were like, all right, they need a guy. They need either like a Kyrie or a Tyler Hero, someone that can create their own shots. That's not one of them. And they didn't get them. So what am I supposed to say about them? That they're going to be better than last year? Because their one glaring problem they didn't fix, and people know that's their one glaring problem, and it was exposed in the playoffs. Are they going to be better? No. This conference is way more competitive, and I have faith in way more of these teams. Speaking of teams that I have way more faith in, at 6 I have the Miami Heat. Now, Miami Heat are very up in the air, and it's a little bit of a concern. Similar to the Pistons, they have not a lot of creating. Now, they don't have much guard creating in general, but unlike the Pistons, they have a top 5 player in the world. His name is Giannis, and they also have Jalen Duren on steroids in Bam. So, I don't know how you could rank the Heat lower than the Pistons. And it's kind of like is kind of like Cavs plus, but like without the guard creation. But I just don't think the guard creation is as necessary with the Heat. Like the Heat are always a team that just finds some role player that does what they need, and I genuinely think that's what they're gonna do with like Davion Mitchell or something. Davion Mitchell's somehow going to become like a 40% 3-point shooter and average like 12 points per game and play lockdown defense. And then they're going to have like Wiggins average like 18 or something. I think Giannis is going to average like 30, and then Bam's going to average 18 as well. And whoever the fuck they put at shooting guard is just going to do shooting guard things like Max Strus or like Caleb Martin type thing, So it's just very Heat things to do. Heat culture, definitely real. I I have them at the 6th seed. It's not crazy high, and I think they could be maybe like 5 or 6 games back from the 1 seed. So it's not like I think they're gonna be crazy bad, but I just think it's gonna be that close. And at 5, I got the Pacers. Now this one is a pick that I'm very very uncertain about, because if you remember, the Pacers weren't really like great, right? Like, I mean, they were hot in the regular season to end their finals run, but like the seasons before that, they weren't all that great. And Miles Turner and Zubats are very different centers, very different. But Pascal's still there, Nemhard's still there, Neesmith's still there, Hallie's gonna be back. There's no reason for them to not be good this year, and I personally would have loved to see them have their pick, but they also needed center. And they said, hey, we'll gamble. We'll do the 50-50. And they lost the 50-50, which sucks. And if they had won that 50-50, they're probably 2 or 3 spots higher. But they're at 5. I don't know how Hallie's going to be back coming off the Achilles. I feel like he'll have some moments where it's going to really show that he is. But he also isn't, a guy that really relies on like his athleticism as much. He's 6'5". He's not a high flyer. Like he can get up, and his shot is very arm based. There's not a lot of like leg in it, and you can't like we saw Dame win the 3-point contest coming off a torn Achilles. That hasn't really ever affected someone's shot like that. Klay Thompson came off a torn Achilles and was still just a great shooter still. So even if his shooting takes a little bit of a, he's still gonna be an elite playmaker. Maybe he won't have that same quick first step, but he's gonna go from what like being the best playmaker in the league to maybe the third best. I think it's. I think there's very high floor here, a very high ceiling here, but a pretty low floor for the Pacers, and I'm kind of just banking on them hitting that ceiling because I like Tyrese. And at 4, this one very contingent on Kawhi Leonard being there is the Raptors. So if Kawhi Leonard is there, the Raptors, I have a 4. And really, they could be. These next 4 are all interchangeable. So if you are fucking crying about someone being here or not being here, or you're crying about fucking who I have at 3 not being at 1, or who I have at 1 being too high, I don't think all these teams are getting separated more than by like 3 games. It's gonna be like one bad stretch in like fucking February will set you back. So let's not do that. Let's not do that. And you know what would be a bad stretch? If your free agent doesn't even, or if your new former DPOY, 28 point per game scorer last year, doesn't even go to your team because he was paid to promote trees, which he never did. That would fucking suck. The Raptors are very good with Kawhi. I did make a video on that. You have to have for 10 minutes, so I'm not gonna, be like, I don't know, man, I don't know. So Raptors and Kawhi, I have at 4. At 3, I have the Celtics. I don't think losing Jaylen Brown, especially when you replace him with Paul George, is a very big hit. I just don't. I can't see it mattering all that much. And when you realize that Jaylen Brown is sorry. When you realize that Jaylen Brown, like, he's a good on ball defender. He's not a good off ball defender at all. He'll let you run around and, get by him, backdoor cuts, open threes, all that type of shit. So I'm not so certain that Jaylen Brown is just going to be some, right in for being back in that MVP race, which he was. He was very good as someone who had to be on the guy with the ball and had to be that, but he's not going to have to be that. But we're not talking about the Sixers, are we? So why am I doing that? Paul George, good defender on both sides. He's not great at either anymore because he's old, but he's still a 3-point shooter. Um, he's definitely at risk to lose some of his legs. Like we saw in the playoffs with the Knicks, like he would come out really hot. 15 points in one quarter. We're like, oh my god, this is gonna be the Paul George game, and then he just doesn't score again because he loses his legs and 0 for 9 or whatever he did. It sucks, and I don't want to see Paul George like that. That would sadden me a lot because I like PG. But I think the Celtics are going to be really good. I think Pritchard will take a leap. I don't think it'll be like Jalen Brunson. I could be wrong. I feel like I'm not in the minority of that idea of that he's not going to be Jalen Brunson. But there are people that think that, so we're not gonna just rule that out. I guess anything can happen. I guess, but yeah, Derek White's still there. They did get Conley and Mitchell Robinson. And then they still have Gata. They re-signed him, so they're gonna be very similar to what they were last year. And obviously Tatum and Paul George combined is better than Jaylen Brown by himself. So they're gonna be just as good, or if not better than they were in the regular season. And yeah, so we have 2 teams left: Sixers and the Knicks. This one is hard to rank because when healthy, the Sixers are the better team. However, that's not really the case. So I still have the Knicks at 1 just because I feel like in the regular season, LeBron and Embiid are not going to play more than like 15 or 20 games together. And I think that might be really like stretching it. They could, if you told me that they played like 15 or they played 15 games together, I'd be like, makes sense. Now, does that mean the Sixers are going to be bad? No, because they still have a fuck ton of talent on that roster. And they have scoring off the bench. They have defense off the bench. They have scoring in the starting lineup, a fuck ton of it. They have playmaking in the starting lineup. They have some defense in the starting lineup. So, really, when healthy, they're probably the favorites. But are they going to be healthy is the question. I'm not sure. And then I got the Knicks. Sorry. The reigning champs. There's not much to say. I don't really have much more to say about the Knicks. They're a fucking fantastic team. They just won the championship. I don't like putting the championship team at 1 because, especially in the new parity area, because it feels like a cop out and it feels like I'm going to be wrong because no one has repeat. There's been a different champion every year in the last 8 years, so it does kind of feel wrong to put them here. But just because they're the first seed in the East doesn't mean that they're not the championship head. The Thunder last year, they were the champion and they were the clear 1 seed in the West. They didn't even make the finals, so You never know. But yeah, anyways, that is the power rankings video. I thought this video would be a lot longer than it ended up being. Uh, guess when you're not debating with someone else, it's hard to make pretty long videos. But yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. If you're still here and you're not subscribed, I would be shocked. So yeah, please subscribe, like the video, and yeah, share it if you want to. Thank you for watching. Bye.